Now, I hate getting up early in the morning, but when there are two new motorcycles to ride, that hate kind of turns into love. And the two new motorcycles I have with me today are the Suzuki V-Strom SX and the Suzuki Gixxer SF 250. And it's quite simple. I have one day to figure out which is the right motorcycle for you. Hi, my name is Dhruv Paliwal, you're watching autoX. Let's get started. Now let's start with the fact that these two motorcycles look quite different parked next to each other, but underneath the skin they actually share a lot of bits.
The biggest common point between the two is the 250cc oil-cooled single-cylinder engine. This engine uses Suzuki's own patented technology and runs cool in traffic. The power delivery is linear across the spectrum, and even though there are vibes at the pegs and even at the handlebars, in the case of both motorcycles, they are mild enough to not cause any discomfort. The engine loves to rev and will hit the red line all day long without any complaints. The 6-speed manual transmission, which is also shared between the V-Strom SX and the Gixxer SF 250, is smooth on most occasions, although when you downshift hard, it kind of fails to slot into place and requires added effort. It's not the end of the world, but I was left wondering what an excellent package this powertrain would be if this one issue was fixed. The braking hardware is also the same on both motorcycles, and although Suzuki doesn't list the size of the brakes on both motorcycles, they look visually similar and also feel similar in use. The overall braking feedback feels just about okay, although you do feel the need for more stopping power on both motorcycles. A more abrasive brake pad could potentially solve both issues. Apart from the same source of propulsion and the bit that brings them both to a stop, the two motorcycles also share the same instrument cluster. It's a Bluetooth-enabled interface that looks basic but manages to pack in a lot of information in a clean fashion. The Japanese bike maker has even managed to wiggle in their Suzuki Ride Connect system that allows you to pair your phone and receive notifications and directions on the instrument cluster.
Now we've talked about how these motorcycles are similar. Now let's talk about how they are different. And obviously the biggest difference here is the design. Me personally, I love the design of the Gixxer SF 250 because it's timeless, ageless, and while it might look like it has gotten a little bit old, I think this design for years will continue to look fresh. The V-Strom SX on the other hand, it's more modern, it's more contemporary, it's more in your face, and I think even the color option on the V-Strom SX is the more vibrant one. But I think it's a little more jarring, a little more edgy, and a lot of you will like it, but I think it's gonna grow older very soon. You'll want an update for this motorcycle a lot sooner, and I think it's in that regard where the Suzuki Gixxer SF takes the win for me. And that's also partly because of this MotoGP style livery that the Gixxer SF has, which I really love. Sad to see that Suzuki is no longer in MotoGP, but anyway. But do you know what? We want to know which motorcycle do you think looks better? Reach out to us in the comments box below. Let us know which one do you think is the better looking motorcycle. And with that, let's move on to other bits now. Let's talk about the seat height. The seat height of the Gixxer SF 250 is a lot more friendly, and even shorter riders will be able to plant both their feet on the ground really well. Whereas the V-Strom SX, it's not a stretch, but it is slightly taller than that of the Gixxer and can be a slight reach for some people. The handlebar on the Gixxer SF, these are clip-on handlebars, feel very sporty, whereas on the V-Strom SX, these are raised handlebars, and I think they kind of will work better off-road to give you slight more leverage over where your motorcycle is headed. Even the grab rail at the back, the Gixxer has a split pattern on both ends, looks very sporty, gels really well with the design of the motorcycle. Whereas on the V-Strom SX, you have this nice long plate at the back with lots of grooves in which your passenger can actually hold on to, and it also doubles up really well when you want to tie your luggage onto the back of the motorcycle for those really long journeys. Another similarity and difference at the same time for these two motorcycles is the fuel tank. The fuel tank is 12 liters on both the motorcycles, but it's shaped differently. On the Gixxer, it's been shaped in a way that your knees will be able to lock onto it, latch onto it properly when you're in a sporty, tucked in, committed position, whereas on the V-Strom SX, you'll be comfortable when you're sitting down and riding, but even when you stand up, your knees can hold onto the tank pretty well. The V-Strom SX gets a little bit more suspension travel too because of, well, it being an ADV and all. The tires too are different. You've got a block pattern tire on the V-Strom SX, whereas you get regular road bias tires for the Gixxer SF. And the rear view mirrors also are quite different on both these motorcycles. Over here, you've got them positioned in a very orthodox manner and very easy to adjust. On the Gixxer SF, they're a little more difficult to adjust because they're actually positioned next to your visor. But the good thing here is that when you are in a crowded place, you can actually just fold these mirrors in and you get a lot more clearance on your sides. So that's actually a boon in traffic. Now last but not the least, you also get knuckle guards as standard on the V-Strom SX. They are available as an optional extra on the Gixxer SF. But would you really want them?
With the similarities and the differences out of the way, it was then time to swing a leg over both motorcycles and find out what they are actually like to ride. I started with the Gixxer and immediately fell in love with how this motorcycle cantered about. The seating position is committed, but not enough to be a backbreaker. The ride quality is slightly on the firmer side than the V-Strom SX, but in a manner that improves the composure of the motorcycle and doesn't take away from the comfort side of things. And most of all, show the Gixxer SF250 a corner and it smiles like there is no tomorrow. It's so easy to tip in that it takes hardly any effort on the rider's part, and even when you try and upset it by downshifting hard or just braking hard, it feels very friendly. The V-Strom SX has a more comfortable ride of the two, and you appreciate the tall windscreen that deflects air at highway speeds and the upright upper body position. The foot pegs, however, are rear set, and that ends up putting you in a slightly uncomfortable position. You can still tour on it, but bringing the foot pegs forward would reap massive dividends when it comes to comfort. The V-Strom SX is similarly stable as the Gixxer at highway speeds, but to make even the smallest of direction changes, you have to slightly manhandle the motorcycle, whereas on the Gixxer, it's a more delicate process. The V-Strom can corner decently well, but after a certain point, the softness of the suspension does start to rear its ugly head as you start feeling a slightly wallowy sensation coming from the rear tire. The tires too start feeling out of their depth as you up the speeds, and the Gixxer starts pulling ahead at this point. The V-Strom SX, however, makes up for it by being a mild off-roader that you can throw over a jump or two.
Now my time with these motorcycles is coming to an end, and I think I've been able to form a very clear opinion as to which of these two would work better for you. Now starting with the V-Strom SX, if you commute on your motorcycle, if you use it to go to office every day, if you use it to go buy your groceries, and if sometimes you like to go on highway trips as well, on road trips as well, then this is a very comfortable motorcycle. As far as its off-road question goes, well, it's not the most capable motorcycle in an off-road setting, but yes, it can do some mild off-roading. Apart from that, I think it's a very comfortable motorcycle to live with on an everyday basis. Now that might make you think that the Gixxer SF250 is not, and that's where you're wrong. The Gixxer SF250 too is quite a comfortable motorcycle to live with, despite the fact that it's a sport tourer. But the thing with this is, this has been set up. You can still use it to commute every day. You can still actually use it for your everyday groceries, but it's just not going to be as practical as the V-Strom for that reason. But if you're someone who wants to hone your riding skills, if you're someone who wants to ride faster, if you're someone who wants to become a better rider, then the Gixxer SF is one of the best bikes, not in this comparison only, but in its entire segment as well. It's a very communicative motorcycle, and if you like throwing your motorcycle around a corner, like me, then you're gonna love the Gixxer SF250. Thank you so much for watching this video. Share it with your friends if they're having a confusion picking between any of these two motorcycles. Let us know how you liked the video down in the comments box below. And if you want to keep watching more such comparisons, well, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so when the next video comes out, you get notified of that immediately. Thank you so much for watching.